Hello, I'm Reverend Karen Davis of First Christian Church. If you're going to build a PB&J sandwich, you probably need to start with something that you're going to put it on, your bread or cracker of choice. Then you're going to need the peanut butter and the jelly. To make it work, you need all of those ingredients. What we find as we read Micah chapter 6, verse 8, that the prophet Micah is reminding the people of God what God has required of them, what God has asked of them in order to be the faithful servants of God. That God has simply asked them to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with God. So that third element makes the other two possible. Today, as we focus on walking humbly with our God, we realize that we need humility in order to do justice, in order to show kindness. It begins with walking humbly with our God, that we are to have humility towards God and humility towards one another. It begins with realizing, here's the news flash, that we are not the center of the universe. We find that we live in a very individualistic society, one in which we think it's all about me and what I want and my rights and my convenience. But the reality is, as followers of Christ, we are called to be part of a community, part of a collective society. We describe ourselves as a community of faith. We describe ourselves as the body of Christ. We describe ourselves as a family. And so what that means for us is that we are to care about the needs, desires, and concerns of those around us, to realize that others are just as important and just as valuable as we are. So it means taking a little focus off ourselves and putting a little more focus on what God has called us to do, and a little more focus on what it means to serve God's people. So as we think about walking humbly with our God, first and foremost, if we realize that God is an omnipotent and omnipresent God, if we just look outside and are in awe at the beauty and masterfulness of creation, we realize that we should be in awe of our Creator God. That we realize that we pale in comparison to all that God has done, is doing, and is yet to do. So as we walk humbly with our God, it means not telling God what we think God should be doing, not giving God advice, but remembering to listen for the wisdom, guidance, and direction of God. And then that is to carry forward in how we are to treat one another. When we walk humbly with our brothers and sisters, realizing that they are as valuable and as worthwhile as we are, that each and every one of God's children are important and are of value, and that we should care what happens to each and every one of them, both near and far, both those who are in our circle of friends and those who are not, that we are to care about everyone equally. And that as we see the value in one another, then that enables us to work for justice, equity, and equality, and enables us to be kind with one another, to show mercy and grace, the same mercy and grace that our Creator God has shown to each and every one of us. And so to equate this whole puzzle, to bring it together, we find that humility is that third piece that helps us go forward, doing justice and loving kindness. So as we begin to put the world in perspective, as we put ourselves in perspective and our relationship with God, then we could be better at serving God and serving one another. So I encourage you to continue your faith walk, to continue your journey forward, and to do that by walking humbly with your God. May you go forward with peace, walking humbly with God as you do justice and love kindness.